Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
Absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
Hello, good evening and a warm welcome to you. Welcome back to PSGL, the PC division, and you're watching F4 right now, and last week he wasn't with us, but this time he's back. My name is Frostbreath, aka Rob, and here we have Hyperactive joining us for the first time this season. Hyper, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing spiffing, and it's a shame from what you've been telling me behind the scenes about last week's race. It's a shame my voice decided to conk out and not allow me to be part of this because it sounded epic, and especially with the drivers we have in F4, it is, well, it should be some of the greatest races we see even today when we head to Spa. But I feel we should really recap a little bit of what happened in Australia. And from what you tell me, crashes is the biggest point of call from last week.
Yeah, you said, well, conking out was the theme between several drivers last week. In fact, one of them conked out so bad, Chanakinchi that he decided to drop the reserve immediately. He's now been replaced by Simon Engel in the second Ferrari alongside Nando Moreira, who is actually a reserve driver and is now leading the championship as that reserve driver. So good job on him. The racing was close indeed. Qualifying was even closer. The entire field was in a half a second in qualifying. Then come race day, several strategy opportunities made some drivers have a good moment in the race. The others, not so much. For example, Ryan Grob, he became stuck behind Philippe Sousa on all the tires for pretty much the entire race with that safety car. At the moment that the medium tires users could switch to the hards, then by the end of it, punctures, in fact, I forgot to mention that one, Hyper, went absolutely nuts. By the end of the race, 3 or 4 drivers, the left rear tire punctured, and that meant race over for them all and dropping out, which does explain why Jeroen, for example, finished 84 seconds behind the pack.
Where was that in a conversation? You didn't tell me punctures? That's like the go-to most interesting moment.
It usually comes back to me when I'm talking about it. I'm like, oh, right, yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. It makes sense where the juices are flowing and it has finally realised what's going on. But we could be into another track that can cause puncture territory. We're here at Spa over in Belgium. And again, it's not as highly deg track as Australia, but it definitely can pose some tyre strategy. It could definitely pose some wear, and I wouldn't be surprised for those who are willing to take those risks to massively extend those tyres or stop early and then extend from there onwards. We could see the potential of return of punctures. So maybe, first time's a warning, second time here at Belgium could be a possibility.
Yeah, they might want to hope that the safety car will come out a little bit later, if it comes out at all, of course. It came out at a pretty bit time for those on the medium tires. The drivers who started on the hard, which were only a handful, Alessandro Finn was one of them, for example, could carry on for a little bit longer. They had to pit later down the line, but of course they missed out on a potential good result. Alessandro Finn finishing 8th in the race and therefore, of course, 8th in the standings. You can see the standings on the screen right now, and Nando Moreira, of course, leads the championship. It doesn't happen often that a reserve driver leads it, but here we are, followed by Lewis Bloor in second place in the V-Carb. Then the new driver in the Ferrari, Simon Engel, followed by Philippe Sousa, who Ryan Grob was stuck behind last race. Damien Carrion P6 and Lucas Shea P7. Alessandro Finn then, of course, in 8th. Nel Guillaume P9 and Thomas Laminin rounding off the top 10. The point scorers last race in 10th place. And of course, just missing out Jeroen Visser, Dennis Kamensky, JST, and plenty of non-finishers as well. 4 of them retired in the pit lane, and 1 of them crashed on the track. And that is the story of Australia. I believe we've got a full lobby this time around, Hyper, so that pumps up things a little bit extra.
Always spices things up because there's more people to cause some areas and cause problems, and I think this is the perfect time to transition over to where we're going. Of course, Spa de France. I'm probably going to try and pronounce that off the top of my head. I should know it as an avid F1 cat fan, but we all know it's a Spa. The 7.0 kilometer circuit with normally 44 laps in an F1 race. We're reducing that down massively, which had its first Grand Prix in 1950, where Sergio Perez did set the average lap time of, well, the fastest lap time of 1:44.7. But this is F1 esports. We're going to absolutely smash that lap time and go even faster. I am gassed. I am pumped. It's a track that has great overtaking into turn 5, the 1, 5, and then riskier overtakes into 12 and 18. But I just feel this always makes us come home. You see Spa, you feel at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely close to my home, as I'm from the Netherlands. Zandvoort a little bit closer, to be fair, but still, as close to home as can be this season, I believe. Zandvoort isn't present on the calendar, unfortunately. Not even in reverse. Either way, we're about to head to the track. It's, in my opinion, the prettiest track on the entire calendar. Big, long, twisty, plenty of overtaking opportunities, as you said, and I'm looking forward to a proper race around here. Tips for pole position. Let's see if the usual suspects from last week can do it again. And then slowly but surely we can start picking out the potential championship favorites. Because after one race, I think it's a little too early to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those where you could do essentially what McLaren did in 2000 and I'm going to really rack my brain here. 2015 when Kevin Magnussen got onto the podium, but then ended up being one of the teams at the back. So it's one of those scenarios. We don't know if it's just a fluke or if it genuinely was that they were absolutely splendid and they are going to take the championship. So yeah, let's see how this race turns out. I think second race, we will see if there's a common theme amongst a few of the drivers who are ahead. But I think realistically, we could call the true fight on race 3, which the next one after this is my personal favorite, Kota, but I won't get into that because we've got a stacked race coming ahead.
First to exit the pit lane is one of the Racing Bulls. That is Lewis Bloor, man second in the championship, so he's got some high stakes to fight against this time round. And perhaps he can try and put himself in as one of the favorites for the title. Got a little bit lucky, of course, last week with strategies and safety cars allowing him to finish second in the end. But still, sometimes luck is all you need to win big. There he is. He's quite far ahead from the rest. We can also see Alexi Cavero slotting in second place on the track right now, followed by 3 other cars. It's flooding empty now. The pit lane is. Several cars stay behind for a little bit longer. Of course, it's a long, long run all the way until the start-finish line. And only then your hot lap will start. Of course, track limits will always have to be a thing to keep an eye on. Last week, especially in Australia, on the final few runs, it was invalidations galore, so to say. So that means we'll have to be extra careful. Somebody in the chat just notified me correctly. I think I've made a bit of a mistake. It shouldn't be round 1 Australia. It should be round 2 Belgium in the YouTube title. So apologies about that one. You're absolutely right. But here we are. Indeed, it is Spa, not Australia.
Well, I don't know. At the moment, we've got the sunshine like Australia. And I'm sure the Aussies won't be too miffed if we were back to Australia once again. But I want to kind of go back to your point about the invalidations on this track. It's a lot harder to invalidate, but there are still some known spots. Of course, exit of turn 19, which is the end of the bus stop chicane, which we're literally about to head into as he goes through Blanchimont. Here we go, bus stop chicane here. The exit is one area we definitely going to see some invalidations crop up. It's so easy, particularly because of the white lines and it's tarmac on the other side of the road. Rest of it, you can get invalidations on the exit of Radion. That's another area that can sometimes creep up, especially if you're tacking a Rouge in a horrible case. And then just cutting of corners, Lacombe, taking too much curb can be enough to get an invalidation. And then the rest of it, at the exit of Blanchimont
Turn
as well,
12.
17.
Turn 12 is a tricky one as well. Go a little bit wide there, and there, boom, your lap's pretty much gone. I also fixed the title, by the way, on the YouTube channel, so if you refresh now, it should say round 2. Belgium. Indeed it is. Here is Lewis Bloor on his way through turn 9 right there, heading to Brussels. And let's see what he can do from there onwards. I missed his first sector time, unfortunately. But, you know, this is just a banker lap. Players, drivers, certainly going to try and stay within the white lines in the first attempt as much as possible. And I usually find that when you set a banker lap, it's a lot easier to find improvements in your second and third attempts because you've got something to work towards. And I'm sure these drivers are no different in that regard. Turns 13 and 14 coming up right here. Nice and easy does it. Very thin curbs indeed. Easy to slip around as these cars are very sensitive to curbs, especially as narrow as these ones. End of the second sector, 13.027. We do not know yet whether it is quick here in F4 or not. And now we're gonna go on this long sort of straight-ish bit with very few places where you have to lift, perhaps a little bit here. No, flat out simply does it, no problem at all. And then of course to the famous bus stop chicane, the final 2 corners here for Lewis Bloor, and then we'll see where the man second in the standings is going to be in terms of lap times. Is it going to be a 1 minute 40, 41, 40.469? Very strong indeed, right out of the box, followed by Alexi Cavero, who goes even faster than that, 40.3. And sooner or later, more and more lap times will flow in.
Yeah, I genuinely think a 39 is on the tables here, and that's just going to get closer and closer as we go through the day, as we lay down the rubber. The degradation just builds up, as we can see Oliver Knott jumping himself into second place. Thank you very much, he will say, but not close enough. Diego Fair finds 5th in his runnings as well, as more drivers still coming through. We've still got the 2 Hasses to make their way through. Scott Holmes and Tristan Jasson still needing to set lap times as well. The Aston Martin jumps in. Dennis not able to do too much, but only finds 9th fastest. Here comes the first. The Hasses only finds 9th. But Nando, that's a critical name for the Ferrari squad. Able to find any jump in the standings? No, only 13th fastest.
That's a bit of disappointment for him, I'm sure. And he's got the exact same lap time as Dennis Kamensky. Only good enough now for 14th. That's a little bit painful there. Yusuf Sayed on his way still. The only driver remaining without a lap time. JST, as you can see, has retired in the pit lane. I believe he's serving a qualifying ban after the incident in qualification last week. I believe he impeded somebody there from the top of my head. Yusuf Sayed on the final corner on the main straight across the line is a 40.701 right out of the box. P12 for now. Alexi Cavero then, the fastest of the lot, followed by Oliver Knott, who struggled big time last week to get a lap time on the board. Only in his final attempt in the final few possible seconds did he manage to get a proper lap time in, and immediately jumped well into the top 10. Now he's second fastest with Alex Santana right behind. Lewis Bloor now in P4, Ryan Grob. No surprises there. Fast as usual. P5 this time round, followed by Damien Carril, the man right behind him in the standings. Coincidentally, they are in the same position as they are in the championship standings. P5 and 6 right there. Diego Ferrer in P7, Lucas Shea 8th, Neo in 9th, and then Tristan Janssen, one of the many Dutchmen here in this league, in P10.
I'm gonna throw it out there. I generally think the top 11 still have a shot for P1 here. There is massive room for improvement. We're still laying down the foundations on this track, and you know, I know it's a stretch to say Tuomas Lamminen. That is a very big stretch, taking it down here to 146 dead. I still think there's room, and we know Lamminen from previous series he's raced in. I know personally from casting him back in 23, 22, and 21. He's a fast driver that will find those 10th and 2 in qualifying. And then don't get me started on his race pace. That's also another story in itself. So that's a potential that could jump up. But again, 11th upwards, all within this fighting chance.
Yeah, I think that's a good analytics there of the lap times. I mean, this is a long lap. I mean, improvements can be found quite easily, therefore. The gap, though, for first all the way to last place, once again, within half a second. I don't know how they do it, but they've managed it once more, all within half a second, as you can see right here. The slowest lap time, 0.478 milliseconds away from provisional pole at the moment. But there's still a long way to go. The second outings are just starting to happen. Lewis Bloor once again first out on the track. Lucas Shea following suit, and the other Racing Bull there of Jeroen Visser, currently the slowest of the lot in 19th place. JST, of course, starting from the back, serving as qualifying ban over at the moment. So Williams will have one car starting from all the way over there. We've got a Ryan Grob fan in the chat there. Let's go, Ryan Grob, he says, as Ryan Grob comes out at the moment. P5 still 3/100ths of a second away from Lewis Bloor and just a little bit ahead of Damien Carril at the moment. Let's see then, a championship lead and then a Morera. I'd say a bit disappointing, isn't it, at the moment? Perhaps made a mistake somewhere?
Yeah, it definitely feels like it, but at the same time, we reiterated this is their banker laps. This is the laps they're just setting that benchmark. They have a time on the board. If they can't find the improvement on their second run, then they know they've got a safety net to go back to. Of course, they have another 2 runs to go, this run here, and then one more at the very end where the track is going to be at its best condition. But I would say lap 2, well, I say lap 2, run 2 is going to be truly the statement of where we're going to see these drivers at. And then once we get to run 3 is going to be the do or die. But I think we're getting close to, I think it was Ryan Grob getting close to starting his lap. Am I not mistaken?
Lewis Bloor as well as Lucas Shea. And we've been watching Lewis Bloor last time around. And I'll let you actually do the honors, Hyper, of showing us Lucas Shea around the track a little bit.
Yeah, this is quite of a tough corner. Very, very gentle on the throttle. Otherwise, you're going to be spinning that car around instantaneously. But when you come through a Rouge, it's a thrill, and you just gotta trust the car, because it's so easy to lift and not trust, and then you lose so much pace going down the Kemmel Straight. But again, another heavy braking zone, dropping it down to the 4th gear, and then quick flicks of the car. Again, trust your aerodynamics, trust that this car is gonna stick to the track. And right now, Lucas nailing every turn, but a little bit of understeer as he was going through Brussels. Thankfully not losing too much time as he flies it through No Name and keeping it within those white lines. Coming to Pouhon, again, another area. Trust your car. You don't necessarily shift down. Some drivers do, to try and keep the revs high, keep that momentum going, but back to, again, heavy braking zones. Drop down to 4th, flicking that car from right to left, and again, another sharp right, keeping it within this white line. It's very easy to dip a tire into the gravel, and then power all the way. If there was DRS on this straight, well, the banana straight, we would use it. And then into the turn 17 of Blanchimont, where Max Verstappen went round the outside. But right now, Lucas nailing this lap. He needs to nail the last 2, cut as much as you can on the first, then be careful on the second, tickle the throttle across the line, a 40.2, and we're getting also closer to that 39 region.
It was Lewis Bloor for a moment, fastest overall, and then Lucas Shea went right over him, 4/100ths of a second quicker than the man in the Racing Bull. The other Racing Bull has improved as well to P18, just ahead of Philippe Sousa, who's currently also, well, 4th in the standings, and now last of all the qualifiers. He's about to finish his lap as well, as he's head straight back into the pit lane, so scratch that one. His teammate, though, has finished his lap. Alexi Cavero has not improved. He missed out by 6 milliseconds and stays in 3rd position. Still, though, brilliantly quick with his first run alone. So we're going to have a little bit of a look to see if we can find somebody about to finish their laps. I believe both Haas cars are on their way at the moment. Tristan Janssen, first of the 2 Haas cars to cross the line as he goes into P7. His teammate up next. You can see him in the red background right there. Scott Holmes is next to cross the line, finds a bit of an improvement, goes into P13. Then one of the Ferraris up next. That is Nando Moreira, your championship leader. Does improve up to P10, a little bit better, but still nowhere near good enough if he wants to properly fight for the title this season. So then, up next, the McLarens. Gianluca Nolfo up to P11. Damien Carril, as he slides around the final corner, goes across the line, improves all the way up to P4, 6 milliseconds behind Dennis Kamensky. And oh dear, I think my game might have just died on me.
Just when we get to the good bit as well. But thankfully, talking of the good bits, we are going to be having a little bit of a lull while the drivers do get back into the pits. And, well, let's talk about the improvements that we have seen. Of course, Lucas jumping all the way to first in that Alpine, a massive improvement, putting himself with a 142. If that's the improvement that we can see from just one driver, let alone the drivers below, that could really turn the tide, and we could really see some drivers jump even further.
Yeah, the man I'm most surprised about at the moment, and of course I mentioned it before already, Nando Moreira is a bit on the back foot at the moment. He was brilliantly fast in Australia, and then at the moment he isn't really there just yet. Maybe he can find some extra time. After all, he's about 2.5 tenths-ish away from provisional pole at the moment, so I'm hoping for him he can find some time and prove that he's actually the real deal this time round. But then again, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It is, and especially if you do a big improvement on your second run, then finding that another big improvement becomes almost impossible on that third run. Of course, naturally, these drivers are extremely talented and would outdo me all day, every day, and probably yourself, Frost, of no disrespect to you. But there's always something that they can look at. And we also get into the point as well, if we talk about like them as drivers, them as like as them in their organizations as well, there's going to be coaches that are going to start and race engineers are going to start coming into play, where they are going to be analyzing their lap. They're going to be looking at where they're losing those little bit of delta times and where they can improve. So that as well can start to play on the drivers when they have that information fed to them.
Yeah, I mean, I myself can barely manage a 1:42, so that explains a great many things. You said yourself you were hoping for a 1:39, but if they were to do that, it would literally be faster than PSGL F1. At the moment, Alex Santana, indeed in provisional pole position. He's managed to get into the 1:40.184, so an extraordinary job by him so far. I'm trying to get all the data back online for you lot. The track map back in business, lap data back in business as well. I'm trying to shift, as you can see on the screen, trying to get to Alex Santana's view, but I, for some reason, can't. So we're currently stuck watching Lucas Shea. Tristan Janssen has retired in the pit lane. I'm not sure why. He might have retired on track. That's one of the more likely explanations, or maybe he just entered the pit lane too late, because of course it's a long run, as I said, to the start-finish line, so he might have not had enough time anymore. So P8 is the best that the Haas driver is going to do, and bear with me as we're going to hope that the game is going to stay alive this time.
I would also love to be able to see what is going on
me
as
too.
well. That is definitely something that I definitely want, but it's gonna be a coin toss. Final run's gonna come into play, and you never know what is going to happen. So I am gassed for these final runs and what they could do. And producer, please, I really can't see anything.
You can't see anything?
No.
Oh, well, let me try again. The game is actually working. Ah, there we go. This should do it for
I
you.
can see things.
There you are, wonderful. I'm so sorry. For
I'm
some reason,
back.
I didn't realize that Discord has decided to close the stream thingy as well. So apologies. There you are. You
No
can now
problem.
watch Lucas Shea, for example, going through turn 7, 8, and 9. Nice and easy. He's definitely in contention for pole position. Oh, a bit of a moment there on the exit of turn 9. Nearly went to that horrible curb where you can basically just skateboard, as they like to call it these days, and almost lose control of your car. Then headed towards Pujon. We'll soon know what the end of the second sector is going to bring for Lucas. It's looking from our point of view like he's barely pushing, but the speed is definitely still there and goes too wide, unfortunately. That is his lap time down the drain. And now the question is, does he have enough time remaining to get back into full charged battery and well in time to go across the line once more and perhaps get another push lap in? That's the big question. Lewis Bloor at the moment is, I believe, also pushing at the end of the second sector. It's 2 seconds slower, so scratch that one. He's also might have just decided to go for 2 out laps, or has made a mistake somewhere as well. Not invalidated though, because he's still going strong. Neo comes back in the pit lane.
Are we getting rain? Am I not
We
crazy?
are.
Maybe just
You're
poor
absolutely
quality
right.
for me, but there is rain, so we're not going to see much improvement
No.
unless they do it here and now. Take advantage of the track in its dry condition, but I don't think we're going to see too much. Lewis Bloor's already gone to the pits and called it a day, but all the lap times we've been seeing, all the sector points have been in the positive. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, well, not just yet. Gianluca, no, +4. Plus 0.4.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to try and improve in these green conditions.
It's over then. That means Alex Santana will potentially get a lucky escape from drivers from behind, as he is now our pole sitter for the race. In the meanwhile, in Discord, Thomas Laminin complaining about having no HUD, which is quite annoying indeed. He'll be missing a lot of valuable information. Let's hope that will be fixed for the race to come. Some drivers have decided to go across the line to finish the session that way. It's a little bit quicker than going back into the pit lane, so I totally understand where they're coming from. So, Alex Santana then is your pole sitter tonight, followed by Lucas Shea on the front row. Then on the second row, we've got Lewis Bloor and Dennis Kamensky. Dennis Kamensky with a very strong qualifying result tonight. Damien Curry in 5th place, Alexi Cavero P6. Oliver Knott then in 7th place, Tristan Janssen in P8, Ryan Grubb can only manage P9, your championship leader then Morera P10, followed by Gianluca Nolfo and Diego Ferrer on the 6th row then. Neo and Thomas Laminin, Scott Holmes, Yusuf Sayed, Alessandro Finn, Jeroen Visser, Philippe Sousa and of course JST now serving as qualifying ban in full. Will be starting from the back of the field. So, Hyper, any surprises from your point of view in this qualifying?
Felipe Sosa, I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Where's that man who was, admittedly, he was Xbox Tier 1 during the time I had the honor to cast him, but where's that drive gone? 8/10, well, it's not 8/10, 7/10 behind the race leader, well, I say qualifying leader for Alex Santana. That's disappointing for me, but at the same time, I do appreciate a crossover from Xbox to PC is a completely different world. It's a different way of playing, and I also know that Sosa originally did play off controller. Whether he is still on controller after these many years is the question mark I would love to ask.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little look at the standings once more before we head to race day and see where Alex Santana is there at the moment. You can see he hasn't started last race, he hasn't raced at all. So he's off to a great start to his season around. Let's see if he can manage to get himself into the championship fight. Lucas Shea last time round finished in 7th place, now got 4 points on the board. Lewis Bloor is the only top 3 driver in the top 3 in qualifying this session. So he'll be counting himself lucky to be there before the rain fell down. Speaking of rain, let's see what it is going to do here on race day as we're loading up as we speak. And then we'll know what the tire strategy is going to be. It's cloudy, Hyper. Could this mean rain in the air? I'm actually watching the pit lane and I can see full wet tires in the McLaren garage, but I can't see any rain falling down. In fact, the track looks quite dry to me, so that might have been a glitch. I think we're going to start on the dry tires then.
I know, I see just under in one of the McLaren garages a T-posing McLaren guy. So if we're talking about trying to observe, there's something for you to have a look at. But he's
just excited, just an excited man.
I know, exactly. Get pumped for it. The overcast clouds are definitely the interest I have here. Are we going to get that rain? I really hope we get that rain because it will add that spice to the race. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to be halfway through the race. That's where I see it happening, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how the drivers are going to react to a potential rain. Will they choose to go for the hards? Usually drivers tend to start on the mediums these days and then swap to the hard tires later on. So I think if they all start on the hard tires, that might mean we'll see some rain later down the race. Otherwise, it might just be a race that's going to be dry all throughout. Either way, it's going to be a fascinating one to watch with Alex Santana from pole position, your championship leader all the way down in the midfield. Philippe Sousa, in fact, all the way from the back of the field. Ryan Grubb, not that high either, to be honest. As I said, Lewis Bloor's got the best starting position, but here we go. We can't see the tires just yet. What we can see is that 5 lights are on, and they are now off for round number 2, and a drive-through penalty for Oliver Nutt. That's the worst possible thing to happen, and he slots into the lead. Of course he does, as Lucas Shea tries to go around the outside, but drifts very, very wide. Now loses several positions, gets slammed by Dennis Kamensky, and now into the wall as well. No visual damage yet, but I definitely saw some carbon fiber flying as they tried to go 3 wide, and of course things do go wrong horribly. What is going on tonight in F4? Another huge accident, and many drivers crashing in the background. Goodness me, what on earth is happening tonight? I'm not sure if they got a call for a restart, but it almost looks like they want to mess up this race on purpose, and there we go. No surprises, Hyper. Virtual safety car called immediately. What absolute carnage. It definitely reminds me of 1998.
Yeah, I think the stewards are going to have a field day tonight.
My
That start
God.
alone is problem upon problem. It all started, I think it was the Williams of Ryan Grob going a little bit wide, putting his tyre into the gravel, and then from there, no traction. The rear end just stepped out, could not control it, and in doing so, smashing into the side of an Alpine. I think that was Thomas Laminen, who has thankfully escaped the carnage, but it just created that cascade of being side by side, and 3 do not go into Eau Rouge. I'm sorry, as much as it's entertaining, you do not put 3 in there. So another driver put a tyre into the gravel and the grass, and then they just went into the side of the wall where we saw Antoine, and may he rest in peace, where Antoine Hubert lost his life. So it is an absolutely appalling start for the bottom, I'd probably say the bottom 13.
Yeah.
But for the front runners, relatively clean.
Yeah, apart from Oliver Nutt, who managed to jump the start. That's a rare thing to happen indeed. As we get back to green flag conditions, he decides to serve his drive-through immediately. Probably the best thing to do, because that means he'll be out of the big melee. And he also gets a 10-second time penalty. That means he's going to retire. There's no other way. 4 other drivers going in at the same time to replace their front wings, and we're quickly swapping back to the front of the field. Alex Santana now leads from Lewis Bloor. Lucas Shea is being dropped down all the way to 7th place. Dennis Kamensky is trying to get past Tristan Janssen, or might be the other way around, as Tristan is one of 3 drivers to have started on the medium tires. They're probably going to take the gamble right there. And as I said, many drivers started now on the hard tires as Lewis Bloor slots into the race lead. Dennis Kamensky goes with him there, and Alex Santana down to 3rd. Many drivers have started on the hards, which might mean we might see some rain. It might also mean they've all decided to go for an alternative strategy. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But so far, it's been an absolutely fascinating start, and Oliver Nutt actually has not retired. Usually when drivers speed into the pit lane, it's because they want to retire as soon as possible, but he's still here, and now he's got to serve another penalty.
That's going to be horrible in the next pit stop, because he probably will have to pit again. Those hard tires, they're on par with everybody else. It's definitely not the best scenario for himself. But I want to talk about Tristan Janssen. That was bold. Trying to make a move around the outside into Eau Rouge. Realized maybe not the best way. Stuck behind the 2 Aston Martins. Let them squabble. But him on the mediums is going to be a threat. Having that different strategy, being quick off the start, you know he's going to go for it, and speak of the devil, why not make it work into the bus stop chicane? Couldn't make that switch back and take the inside curb, but he's got the speed, he's got the pace, he's happy with that.
Indeed, up he goes into the podium place. The question is for how long will he last on these mediums, of course, with the track being long, tire being quite hard to deal with, and potential rain on the horizon. Although I do believe I'm seeing the sun starting to break through the clouds, so rain might only become a myth here around Spa today. We're now on lap 3. Things have calmed down a bit. I just shown Nando Moreira. He's at the back of the field, a long way away from everybody else in P15 all alone. The Ferraris are having a terrible day tonight. Damien Carril just went past Neo for the top 10 positions. And he's going to try and chase down his teammate Gianluca Nolfo, who is in P9 at the moment behind Thomas Laminen. Thomas Laminen having a great race start, by the way, from 14th through the melee into P8. Same goes for Diego Ferrer, started from P12, finds himself in P6 at the moment on the hard tires. And of course Tristan, thanks to his medium tires, finds himself in the podium places. Chasing down Dennis Kamensky, although the gap has already been quite big. Nearly a second. Alexi Cavero is now knocking on the pole sitter's door. Alex Santana is not having a great day from pole position. He's now lost his podium place, and Alexi Cavero is getting ever closer. And the man has now gained 1 position since race start. Alex Santana has lost 3. Many drivers have lost positions, of course, Oliver not being the biggest loser out of this situation, not only because of positions lost, but because of a double penalty in the first 2 laps. So he's got a long race ahead of him, and he's going to be praying for a safety car.
I can't see any visual damage for Alex Santana. That's the first thing I was trying to look out for. It doesn't look like he had any taps, any front end plate problems, so I'm not concerned on that. But this might be a little bit interesting, as Neon has been, well, tussling away against Jerome. And in doing so, we'll find the inside line, says thank you very much, dear sir. I will have this, but they will have to go side by side up to a Rouge, but no. Neon knows better than to try and fight side by side, but in doing so, he's massively backed off, and this is going to allow Felipe Sosa, who started from P19, push his way up, finds one. How about a double? Get a double trouble. Felipe Sosa massively locks up, and we thought it was going to be a clean overtake, but no. Cuts the corner and takes the 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, I am not sure if he expected Jeroen to fight back, to be honest, because Jeroen really wanted to keep his car on the inside. Therefore, Felipe outbroke himself, cut the corner, got a penalty straight away. I'm not sure whether he already had 2 warnings. It would be surprising to have 2 warnings this early in the race already. So it might have just straight out be a corner cut penalty out of the blue without any warnings whatsoever. You might want to fight that with the FIA. Perhaps he can get it removed. But nonetheless, you're absolutely right. From 19th already up to 11th. He wants to get back into the points. And his strategy, though, is not going to be much different from everybody else. It's pretty much an equal one. Lots of hard tires, as I said. Now 4 drivers on the mediums. JST, Alessandro Finn and Yusuf Sayed, of course, having to pit on lap 1 after the absolute carnage in the back of the field. And this driver, Felipe, was one of those drivers who could escape the carnage there. Same goes for those who've won many positions at the start of the race. We're now going to lap number 5. Lewis Bloor is your race leader. The man second in the standings at the moment. His nearest rival, Nando, is far behind. He's losing more and more time, although I have to give him credit. He's actually not losing time at all. In fact, it was 2 seconds 2 laps ago, and he's about to connect to the rear of the group, which is Ryan Grubb.
Get back into that DRS train. It's a good place to be, but I want to talk about Alexi up in 5th place right now. He has been aggressively close to Alex Santana. And I do feel there's a little bit of impatience starting to creep in on Alexi's driving, because that gap does drop down occasionally to 0.3, 0.2, and then he has to back away every so often. And just when we were getting to the fun of it all, the game decides it had enough.
For some reason, today the game has decided it has enough on a lot of occasions, so I apologize about that one. Kind of annoying, really. I'm going to try and restart it ASAP again. This is very unfortunate. Not much I can do, unfortunately. The game is just unstable at some points. And yeah, what can you do, really? So yeah. We're going to be a little while. Should be a minute, because the game starts up relatively quickly nowadays. So yeah, we'll be back in a moment.
Well, after our little short break, I told you Tristan Yassen was getting close. He got it done. He's in front of Alex Santara. Oh no, he did that a bit before. I am mistaken.
Yeah, he's on the podiums, yeah.
I started with a false lie, but I tell you what he is doing. He's putting the gap between himself and Santana, sorry. And in doing so, with that massive lockup, putting himself in the first to break that 1 second DRS zone, and that could be dangerous, and especially on a track like this. It's 0.9. He'll have DRS on this round, but he definitely won't have it on the next.
Yeah, his medium tires are slowly but surely starting to give up, and Alex Santana might soon be back in the hunt for the podium and trying to drive to his teammate, who's managed to slot into second place and hasn't looked back ever since. Lewis Bloor, now your race leader and technically in the lead of the championship as it stands at the moment. In the background, Nando Moreira, Oliver Knott, the both of the Ferraris struggling to get to the DRS detection point, or actually in the DRS zone of the cars ahead. Nando has been gaining a little bit over the last few laps. Now he's lost a little bit of time. He's back down by half a second, almost back up to 2 seconds once more. Oliver Knott has been gaining on his teammate as we speak, so they might want to work together to catch the rest of the field. That's where it stands. I'm hoping the game will now last until the very end of the race. I made a little bit of an adjustment in graphical settings because I think that having this many things open tonight might hurt my PC a little bit. And now Tristan Janssen is officially out of DRS range. He's just barely on the verge of it, and I doubt he's gonna get back into it in time before the detection point. There we go, there it is. And Alex Santana is already on the hunt to retake what is, according to him, rightfully his here on lap number 8, starting right now. Is he gonna go for it in turn 1? I doubt he wants to go there, because that means Tristan would simply come back at him on the Camel Straight. Of course, he wisely decides to stay behind, but he's gotta have to look in his rear view mirrors as well, because there is Alexi Cavero still. But now we're gonna go to the Camel Straight, and the both of them most likely are gonna get past here.
It looks like it'd be done deal. Their medium tires are completely shot. The Aston Martin fly past, so does the Red Bull, but then with the Haas in the way, it could lead for another double opportunity. Alexi looks to go around the outside, but says, just not enough space. Give me room, Alex. But nothing to give. And now you pose this question. If you're Tristan, do you start to go for that pit stop? Do we get rid of these boots, put on a new set? But for the other drivers, and a question I pose to you, Frost, when do we pit? Because we've seen for the first season of this 2025 game that the overcut and going out long can massively benefit you in the latter stages of the race.
Yeah, but that also really depends on where you come out on the track, because last week the overcut, Ryan Grott tried to make it work, but in the end he couldn't, because he was stuck in a long train of cars who had DRS on each other, and that means, especially in a track like Australia, it's really difficult to get past. Might be different here in Belgium, in Spa, but I think, yeah, the overcut, it really depends on how lucky you are with track position, really. And Tristan Janssen, of course, will have no choice but to do the undercut. And I think the point of pitting has come indeed. And there he goes, straight into the pit line as I'm speaking about. And lap 7, or lap 9, sorry, is the lap to go in for fresh, hard tires. We're almost at the halfway point of the race. These tires are well past their best point. And off he goes to get a fresh boot. Fresh 4 boots, in fact, of the hard tires under his car right there. He'll be well ahead of those cars who were stricken in the opening melee. And I think we're going to see another battle between Alex and Alexi. There is Alexi Cavero. Tried to get past in the previous lap. Found no way through. And now, of course, Alex, without DRS, once again has to relinquish his podium place in the background. We also see Thomas Laminen going ahead of Diego Ferrer. Same goes for Damien Correa and Lucas Shea. We're in fact still side by side somehow through turns 8 and 9. And there goes the Dutchman ahead of the Alpine. Lucas Shea now demoted to P9. The man who started on the front rows having an absolute nightmare of a race. He had a poor start, went very wide in turn 1 and basically almost slid into the gravel, lost a load of positions. And he hasn't looked as strong as he has been in qualifying, is he?
No, definitely not as strong as we expected, but there's still a long way to go. Could it be that these hard tires are just not suiting his driving style? Could it be maybe the entire track in this race he's going to have to dip and leave it behind? There's a million and one questions with very little answers. Felipe Sosa, we spoke about him a little bit before. He's still amongst this DRS train, and he is slowly closing in 3/10 off the behind of Lucas Shear. That could be an overtake into bus stop if he wanted to, as he gets ever so closer. Is it enough for a lunge? He thinks about it, but it's not worth doing at this stage of the race. Might as well stay close, go through the source, and then just stick up the rear end, because you could get it done at Le Combs into turn 5.
Yeah, that's probably what he's going to make. He finds that Luca is struggling, so Felipe wants to place the attack right here on the Camel Straight. But yeah, 3.5 tenths, 3 tenths. He's gaining fast. He's using a lot of battery right here. Let's join him on board. He's just got about a third of battery remaining. You can see him using it up all now. DRS goes open. Does Lucas go defensive ahead of them? Alex Santana, Alexi Cavera once again swapping positions. And there Felipe Sousa on the inside. Lucas goes wide though, and basically opens the door really, really wide. He wanted to defend, but then found perhaps his tires have died already. He had no more grip. He just couldn't defend whatsoever, couldn't he?
Yeah, Sosa gave him the room. He gave everything to Lucas to fight back. He was aware that he had Lucas side by side, but the grip non-existent, and thankfully Lucas able to avoid a time penalty to go against him. And at this point, with your driving so slow and not having the pace, I'm looking at my watch going, yeah, it's got to be time now to get rid of these boots. Go and pit for the mediums, because it's just going to hurt you more if you try and extend and keep up with the rest of the pack.
Oh, Ryan Grob is struggling hard as well. I think he might have gotten damage from that opening race. What's happening there? Look at that. He's going wide everywhere.
That's the second time penalty.
I'm trying to find what's going on with his car. Does he have a puncture or something? Going wide again, going off the track
here. I think he's got a puncture. He's trying to counter steer into something.
The left rear looks a little lower.
I think he's got a puncture.
That's a really early puncture. That must have happened because of the melee, because there's no way. And he retires immediately. No surprises there. That's a second retirement. Jesus Sayed retired a lap earlier. We didn't see it, but it happened in the pit lane as well. So 2 drivers out. And Ryan, I think his tires might have gotten severely damaged. So no visual damage, but simply just tire damage. And Ryan is out. Because that's the only way to explain his driving style there at the end of last lap.
Alex. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Alexi just got past Alex, and this was a long time coming. As soon as Alexi got past Santana, you knew he was getting impatient, and he knew he was faster, and now he's got that free air. And talking about maybe less so some free air, that's some very aggressive driving from Vizza, as he almost shoves Lucas out the way, or Lucas attacking Vizza. Either way, into no name and trying it, that's brave.
Yeah, strong move there by Visser. No points last week, and a big bad puncture by the end of the race. And it feels like Lucas might be on the verge of a puncture as well, because he's struggling. So I'm trying to get him into the view. There he is. Lucas Shea having an absolute appalling time, and I feel like he should pit sooner rather than later. But then by the end of the next stint on the mediums, he'll be in even more trouble. So I feel like he wants to sit this one out as long as possible until he really can't get ahead anymore. Neo is up next to try and get past through Blanchimont. They go, and Neo is going to try and go around the outside in the bus stop chicane, and he's not waiting a second longer. He knows that Lucas is no longer up to speed, or actually, Lucas defends quite well right there. Ooh. He's trying to get back at it, and both of the Ferraris coming in right now for a fresh set of medium tires. Oh, never mind, I thought they were going in for a second. They weren't. They're still going around for another lap. We're now on lap 12, so the pit stop window should more or less have opened right now.
It should have opened. I want to actually look at Alex Santano. He's getting closer, and he might try and go back at him. No, he's just cooling down the engine, cooling down those tires. He was the closest to make the overtake, but hey, there are still few people making those overtakes, as Gianluca able to get past Diego and says, thank you very much, 6th place is mine. But now he's at the front of that DRS train, And that's a lot of work and a drainage on the battery. So are we starting to come to that pit stop phase where drivers are starting to think, right, I need to be at the head of the field, make sure that I'm the lead driver of the pack, so when I do go for my pit stop, I will come out ahead?
Yep, let's see what he can do from there. Now, it's looking like the top 2 is driving away more and more from the three drivers behind: Alexi Cavero, Alex Santana, Thomas Laminen fighting for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Then there is a slightly bigger group of cars led by Gianluca Nolfo right now. Diego Ferrer, though, is struggling hard. He suddenly lost all of the time against the McLaren. He, too, is not having a great time on those hard tires. Tire wear really is a huge thing, apparently, now around Spa tonight. And he's now getting hounded by the other McLaren of Damien Carril, trying to get past him for P7 in the background. Also, Felipe Sousa is getting ever closer to a bigger point finish. The bigger the better, and Damien Carril is now actually going to try and place an undercut on several cars. Same goes for Lucas Shea, who's had absolutely enough of those hard tires. He can't wait to get rid of those. He wants to throw them off his car himself, preferably. And now he can ditch them, go to a fresh set of mediums, and perhaps claw himself back into a better position. The podium, though, looks a little bit far away for this man.
Yeah, I think podium is not going to be on the topic of conversation, but Dennis, why don't we do it down the inside? These two have been trading back and forth a little bit quite often, as Alex Santana able to get past Alexi, as well as Diego having a little bit of pressure of Felipe Sousa behind him. The action everywhere across the track, but we're starting to create those pockets, those openings which will allow easier overtakes, especially on such a long straight such as the Camel Straight, because you have so much of a slingshot from Eau Rouge and up through Radion.
Yeah, I have to say this race is in stark contrast with last week. Of course, we had a safety car there, but basically it was a long DRS train all the way until the safety car in the round of pit stops. Right now, a lot of groups are forming. Mostly, of course, a few cars have been in the background due to the incident on lap 1, but others, the pace difference in the race is just a lot bigger than the pace difference was in qualifying. They were very close together there, and now it looks like the top 2 drivers are on their own. Then there's 3 drivers behind them who have got similar pace. Then there's a few behind them who are on a bit of another different level of pace as well. Of course, now we're going to have to see where Tristan Janssen is going to be compared to them. He's been out on those hard tires for 4 laps, so I'm sure he's been closing in on the top of the field. Of course, he was in 3rd position when he decided to throw away his mediums, as JST gets a time penalty right there for track limits. And now we're watching some of the top drivers pitting. For example, Alexi Cavero going for a fresh set of medium tires, and he's decided to undercut Alex Santana to try and get rid of the Aston Martin right there and try to close the gap to the top 2, which are gonna have to pit the next lap. Otherwise, it will become 3 for the win.
If you're wondering why we're not getting excited about Lewis Bloor and Dennis Kamensky, is because we're kind of expecting this now. This is if you cast your mind back to the creator race that was done in 2020 for the F1 Esports Series, where Alex Albon, Lando Norris, George Russell was racing. This was the implemented strategy, and this is one thing I've said to many people in sim racing is overtake for overtake is a strong method of racing, especially if you trust the driver who's with you. And though I'll give credit where it's due, Alex Santana able to keep up with this pack, it's a preservative way that means that you're not using too much of your tires, you're using the natural straight to give you that extra boost and speed. You're not compromising each other. I commend this. It's an underrated strat.
It's smart driving. I mean, you could just fight every single corner, but they would have lost a whole lot of time if they did that. I remember doing league racing once, and yep, they are indeed going for it. I remember league racing myself, and sorry, what?
Well.
Oh no, it's a double stack for Aston Martin. You're absolutely right.
Would you
That's
do that?
yeah, I think he had no choice. Those tires might have been on puncture verge. and preferably take a little bit longer to pit, but that certainly allows Alexi Cavero to get away from him, absolutely. And Tristan Janssen, that's going to be the interesting one to watch as he now goes around turn 1. I think, no, he's, side by side there with Lewis Bloor. Indeed they are, heading towards the Camel Straight. Tristan Janssen just barely gets ahead of our race leader, technical race leader really. And now, of course, Lewis will have the DRS already side by side. Same goes for Alexi Cavero, who's completely closed the gap to the race leader. He's now in the fight for the win, but he can't get ahead. He's going to try around the outside. No way past. And crucially, Dennis Kamensky has not yet gotten past Tristan Janssen. He'll have to use the superior grip really, really soon because the top two are escaping. He was fighting for the win, and he's about to swap positions with Alexi Cavero for second and third, as Tristan is still there on older hard tires, slower hard tires. But he is also in with a fight for the podium, and he's certainly going to try and keep Dennis behind him as long as humanly possible. And Dennis, frustrated with Thomas Lamminen in tow as well, now can see the top two disappear in the distance.
Of course, there's that straggler of a driver that's gonna cause chaos, and it's Tristan Janssen to do that job. And now Dennis is gonna have to sit behind this Haas and wait for the opening. He could make that move into the bus stop chicane. It's not recommended, but no, he's going through Blanchemont. He is so going aggressively and frustrated on this situation. But here comes the Haas as he tries to fight back. No, Tristan has to stay behind. Nothing he could do, and I feel it's just going to be downhill from Tristan here.
For Dennis as well, he's just gotten himself a 3-second time penalty. Maybe something happened in the frustration right there, which has received his third warning. I think it happened in the bus stop chicane somewhere. Cut the corner a little bit too much and gone are his chances for a good race result. He's now out of the DRS range of the top two. They've escaped. It's now Lewis Bloor versus Alexi Cavero as we get another retirement. Scott Holmes now retiring in the pit lane. He's got enough as well. And now we're going to see Tristan Janssen tries to get back at the both of them because Thomas Lamminen is in the fight as well. Tristan on the inside towards turn number 7, and it's Thomas Lamminen now ahead of the both of them up into the podium places because Oliver Knott has yet to pit. He's now being hounded by those on the fresher tires. Is he going to try and play hold up for the rest of the field? His teammate is too far back for him to be of any use to the championship leader, and round the outside in a corner you normally don't see it happen. Turn 11. Beautiful move right there by Lewis Bloor. Alexi Cavero going through as well. Oliver Knott going very wide, trying to defend. He's still on those old hard tires. And now the top two has escaped. Thomas Lamminen is coming in fast and hot as well. The Ferrari will have to pit, otherwise those tires will simply pop and his race will be completely over, if it wasn't over already, because he still has to serve the 10-second time penalty as well. But now things are getting very interesting indeed. There's Thomas Lamminen and Dennis Kamensky within DRS range of the Ferrari. So that means they might have one shot at closing the gap to the top two.
Lamminen needs to make sure he's within a second of Oliver Knott. He's got to be in that second because he can use Oliver Knott to almost slingshot himself into that 1 second mark of that Red Bull of Oleski. That could be his saving grace here. And in doing so, Dennis Kamensky will also want to take advantage of Oliver Knott's slow pace, but able to get ahead. They've got to use this now. They've got to make the overtake as soon as possible. So when they get up to the top of Radion, you've got to be up the rear end. But Dennis Kamensky is saying, no, I want to fight this all the way. And he might go for an overtake onto Lamminen as well. Down around the outside. Maybe a lunge on the inside coming in. No, Kamensky says we're going to work together on this.
Yep, they have no choice. 1.3 seconds, the gap from second to third. Oliver Knott, for some reason, is still not pitted. It's almost like he's going to go for the softs by the end of the race, but he's somehow making these tires last. I think he's hoping for a safety car, cause a little bit of chaos here and there, or perhaps help out his teammate, who's getting closer and closer to the group forming up behind this particular Ferrari. He knows Nando Moreira is the championship leader. Perhaps he can do something to help him out, but I think it's going to be way too far-fetched to do anything about it. So the interesting fight we're watching now is Lamminen getting and trying to get at least into the DRS range of Alexi Cavero, and so far he's succeeding. The gap is becoming smaller and smaller, a little bit bigger through this corner right here. He's only needing about 0.5 of a second And then 2 become 4, and Dennis Kamenski will have another shot at the win. But he's got the 3-second time penalty to deal with. He might want to try and get it removed by the stewards post-race. Who knows what warnings he received and where exactly. Of course, there's glitches that allow double warning to happen as Alex Santana, frustrated now, way out of podium contention, tries to dive Damien Carrillo in the bus stop chicane, but Damien's having none of it. Oliver Nutt finally pits at the end of lap 17. That is a brilliant stint right there from him, but he's gonna have to serve his penalty right now, and he might just throw in the towel because I believe that is race over for him. But we're watching now an interesting fight. Thomas Laminen, he's going to miss out on DRS, and that might be the end of it.
Yeah, not going to be close enough, but I don't think this is the end of it. I don't think this will be the end of Thomas Laminen. He's a lot quicker in the corners. He's a lot faster, but we are going to see Kamenski take over the reins. They're going to say, you know what, you've done your job, you've done well so far, but realistically, I still want this podium and an opportunity to break that 3-second mark. And look again, back within 1 second mark. It is all so close. And again, you got to trust your driver that you're with. You got to trust that duo that you're driving around with if you are to catch up to the leading pack. And realistically, Alexi and Lewis are not helping each other. Lewis is being stubborn and Alexi is playing it safe.
Yep, and that has allowed Dennis Kamenski to nearly get within the DRS range. He is literally on the edge of it, and now he's just under that limit. Thomas Laminen, it's been a while since we've seen him fighting for a win in the higher tier, so it's great to see him all the way back up there, and he's starting to sniff that beautiful smell of a victory around Spa-Francorchamps.
Oh,
it's
he's
lap
dropped
18.
out.
Who's dropped? Yeah, once again. That's painful, isn't it?
He's not going to get the DRS on the start-finish straight, and it's always through Blanchimont, which we are seeing Blore and Alexi just have better grip, better control. But if you get a good exit on La Source, keep it close, which is looking a lot better. Dennis Kamenski is within a second. The top 4 now have an opportunity to all fight each other. And Kamenski, is that rear wing opening up? There's the letterbox. He's here to play.
Yeah, but the both of them seem to have lost on the Camel Straight, so I think they've used up a lot of battery, the both of them, to catch up through Blanchimont to the top 2, and now they're losing out a little bit again, but he's still barely hanging on. We saw Alex Santana climbing up to P5. He's now got another mighty job to do, and hopefully he can work together with Gianluca Nolfo to catch up to the top 4, but they've only got a handful of laps left. Don't forget, we're already on lap 19. We've only got 3.5 laps to go, and then we'll know who will win the race. Lewis Blore is pretty much in a fine position to take the championship lead. Whether he finishes first or second, the drivers behind him are no direct threat to his title hopes just yet, but he wants to win the race nonetheless. Dennis Kamenski is going to find it difficult to win it. The other 3, though, have got a beautiful chance of doing so. Alex Santana is desperately trying to close the gap. The double stack of the Aston Martin pit stop really hasn't worked in his favor whatsoever. Yes, he's got the fresher tires alongside his teammate and Lewis Blore, but he's 2.5 seconds back, and I'm afraid this gap is too little too late to catch the win.
It is way, way too late for Santana. And it's going to pain him knowing he put that Aston on pole and he's down all the way in 5th. It's the biggest gut wrench you're going to have for a while. Kick Salba. Diego, you got to keep your brakes in check as he locks up into the bus stop chicane. And I honestly thought that was going to be Lucas out of this race as he nearly went up the rear end. Felipe Sosa ahead of him as well. So that little tussle is slowly forming amongst itself. But Dennis Kamenski got the job done. He's right with this fight. Of course, that 3-second time penalty is going to loom over him. Whether he gets that remove is going to be a question mark in itself. But if he does, he knows he has to fight for position. And Laminen, right now, I think he's saving up some battery here.
Yeah, I think he's going to save it the best for last. As usual, we only see the big fights happening for the win on the very last lap. They often work together to create a gap as big as possible to the rest of the field, which soon will no longer be necessary because Alex Santana is not closing the gap whatsoever. His gap is stable, though, at 2.5, 2.6 seconds, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller here and there. but the top 4 are definitely in a good contention for the win. Thomas Lemon is hanging back, taking it easy. You can see the battery light flashing, meaning he's charging big time for a last opportunity on either the penultimate lap or the last lap. I think he's going to have to try and overtake Dennis and Alexi at the very least to have a shot at winning. P4 on the last lap through P1 is going to be a huge gamble. So he's going to try and open the throttle now. You can already see the gap between himself and Dennis is indeed reducing. He's been charging the battery time and time again. And now he's closing it to Dennis Kamensky. That is going to be interesting to watch as Felipe Sousa and Damien Carril swap positions. Felipe now with very fresh tires all the way up to P8 from second to last position. But with a time penalty, he's going to have to drive away from the rest of the field. But this is the battle we want to watch. It's Bloor versus Cavero versus Kamensky versus Laminen. And Hyper, let's see what they do on the penultimate lap.
Well, right now it looks like Kamensky is the closest of the bunch. But he also knows that Alexi will have DRS as well to help defend against that stubborn attack. But right now, all drivers playing it safe. They're not going for the strike. They're not wanting to kill and get it done. They're going to stretch this out to the final lap. And I'm looking at the battery charge onto Laminen. Just over a quarter left on his battery life. And he needs to somehow charge that up throughout this lap while maintaining a 0.5 distance. Because realistically, to overtake in DRS, got to be somewhere around the 0.3.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look at all the steering wheels. Dennis Kamensky's battery is a lot lower than Laminen's is. Let's see how it's happening here. Alexi Cavero about half full. But look at Lewis Bloor. He's got a lot more battery than the other 3. So he will have a lot of defensive capabilities despite not having DRS at the next opportunity. He will be burning a lot of battery here. And look at the gap. It's increasing a slight bit. 0.8 of a second. A little bit more right there. Alexi Cavero is trying to think. Look at that. His battery is about 10% right now. That means he's more likely to look behind him than ahead of him. Lewis Bloor might be a little bit too far away because he'll have a lot more battery to burn. But of course, Alexi doesn't know that. As we now go on to the final lap through the bus stop chicane for the penultimate time. The top 4 fighting for victory. Here, 0.8 of a gap between Lewis and Alexi. Lewis has put his ERS strategy to absolute perfection as Neo gets a 3-second time penalty. He's all the way down in P13 though, so that won't really matter to him either way. Here we go then. Thomas Laminen is trying desperately to close the gap, but look at that. Lewis Bloor with his battery has driven himself away from the other 3. Now Alexi Cavero might be in trouble because there is Dennis Kamensky. That won't be the main problem because he's got a 3-second time penalty. Is Alexi going to defend against the Aston Martin? Looks like he doesn't have to do so at all because Dennis is too far away. Thomas Laminen still hanging on in the background. Gianluca Nolfo, Alex Santana still swapping positions for P5. Ahead goes the McLaren for the final time towards Brussels corner. The top 4 then. Looks like Lewis has absolutely blown the rest of the competition to smithereens. He's now almost 2 seconds clear to the rest of the field. He's played this to perfection. He's done an undercut to Alexi Cavero. 1 lap fresher tires, a lot more battery to work with, and it's worked brilliantly. Dennis Kamensky is going to certainly try to get 1 or 2 warnings removed to perhaps still fight for second place here. Another podium position for him to gain. Thomas Laminen, will he be close enough when we go to the Blanchimont corner for one final time? There they are then. I think these gaps are a little bit too big. Thomas Laminen, let's see how his battery's doing. More than half of it remaining. Dennis Kamensky has got a lot less than that, so perhaps still an opportunity then for the Finn in the Alpine. But soon we'll have to swap our attention to our soon-to-be race winner, and it looks like these 3 will not take any position changes, and that means Lewis Bloor with an extraordinary strategy was getting a yellow flag. Here was Lucas Shea crashing out, but Lewis Bloor is winning it here in Spa-Francorchamps tonight. He is your new championship leader. Alexi Cavero will have to take second place. Thomas Laminen takes third thanks to Dennis's penalty in the background. Absolute carnage once again. What happened on the first lap happens on the last lap as well. Some carbon fiber in the middle of the road. I've got no clue what happened to Lucas Shea, but there's your results. Lewis Bloor, winner of the race and the new championship leader.
Wow. That was timed to perfection, and talk about controlling the second half of the race. He had Alexi. We knew that Alexi's been aggressive. He has been up rear ends of many of the drivers. He was on the back of Kamensky. He was on the back of Santana. He was constantly there, but as soon as he got behind Bloor, Blor almost said, okay, cool, be there. I know where to position my car so you can't overtake. I know where to be when you do try and attack. And I've been charging my battery throughout. And then come that last lap where he had nearly 80% battery, meaning he could pull off a quali lap to finish off the race. That is brilliant masterclass work and clear dedication to race strategy.
Also a double finish podium, of course. We've got Alexi and Thomas, both from Finland, standing on a podium tonight. I'm going to try and tag them in the F4 chat. Let's see if they want to give us some insights on the race with a little bit of an interview. Let me link the waiting room for them to make sure they find their way nice and easy. And last week, unfortunately, no interviews. Let's see if this week they're up for the job. A little look at the race results downwards. Of course, Oliver Nutt, with his extended stint, finished 14th, but easily with the fastest lap of the race of 42.2, well ahead of the rest of the field in terms of lap times. No surprises there. Jeroen Visser, this time has scored points around. No puncture for him around. He's from 18th place all the way up to P10, but I think Philippe Soos has done a brilliant job there from 19th to 7th. So, yeah, all throughout, quite the race, wasn't it?
It really was. You know, normally when I see Spa, I'm like, it can be good, but it can be quite boring. But nah, today was beautiful. The tire deg really played a massive factor in this race today. And this is where we got to see a lot of those lovely overtaking. I think that, again, a use for overtake to overtake strategy as well amongst the pairings and the little groups we started to see as well, was able to maintain some good gaps for the front runners. A lot of external factors played into this race, and I enjoyed that. I feel it made that racing just a little bit more unpredictable. And then, as I said, that ending is just pure perfection to almost state to everybody, cool, you're there for a 4-man fight, but it's a 3-man fight for second.
Yeah, all the more pitiful, actually, that Lewis doesn't want to join us for an interview. Thomas can't make it to an interview, and it looks like Alexi isn't going to respond. So, once again, F4 doesn't want to give us some insight on their racing shenanigans going on tonight, which is a bit of a shame, a bit unfortunate. A few drivers we've got to mention, of course. Nando has now lost the championship lead. Whether he's going to be back in contention next week around Kota remains to be seen. Lucas Shea, though, Hyper, had a nightmare of a race. Despite the fact that he wasn't involved in major incidents, his pace wasn't there, crashed out on the last lap. What was going on there, do you think?
It's hard until you speak to them. Pace definitely was one of the factors. A lot of the drivers behind P5 onwards, probably P6 onwards, their pace was just nowhere near the standards to the front runners, and in doing so, then they were overdriving the car. That then leads to more tire degradation, where we start to see one driver get a puncture, which, let's keep this tally going. We've got a puncture in Australia, puncture in Belgium. So I think that plays in their mind when you know you're slower than the front runners, and you're trying to chase to the point you kill your tires for that mid section, the first pit stop and the only pit stop of the race. So I think that's what happened here, is just overdriving the car, and in doing so, destroying the potential because your tires can't handle it.
Yeah, I'm watching Discord now as well, Hyper, and Alex is actually ruining the VSC ending timing. He's saying Cody's can time the VSC ending better next time, so instead of 3 people getting past, it's 4 or 5. He's starting first. He says, killed my race, pretty much. He finished P5 in the end, so, well, not that bad, to be honest, but I think it could have been much better starting from pole. And instead of P1 and 2, he was P4, stuck behind a medium runner. Yeah, it's been a tough race for him as well, isn't it?
It definitely doesn't feel good. I said it just before the race ended. It's going to suck. You started on pole. You have this track position. You're in the greatest place in them all. And then VHC comes out and it just screws you over. It it really doesn't help. But at the same time, you've got to learn from it. And he's going to look back and look through his own footage because he's probably recording it himself. He's going to look back at the race feed as well. And he's going to see where that timing came from. How could he be more alert? Could he have positioned that car in a better way? There's a lot of what ifs and a lot of could haves, but they could be used in the next race because I probably will say this hand on heart. There's probably going to be a safety car in Kota because it's overtaking galore in Kota. So we'll see. We'll see how he can improve, and all he has to do is go back and review. See
I've got a great news, Hyper. We've got somebody for an interview.
Yes.
It's Alexi Cavero. So let's drag him in right away. Alexi, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. Third place finish, all in all. Second. Yeah, you finished on the podium. So yeah, how was this race for you? I'm all confused already for some reason. Congratulations. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. Yeah, it's nice to see that the practice is paying off finally, and yeah. Race was basically pretty straightforward. Just avoid the carnage on lap 1, which I was ahead, luckily, because there was a massive crash in Eau Rouge and Radion. But yeah, after that it was just trying to work with Alex to try and catch the two up front, but we didn't do that, so I tried to undercut, and then yeah, that got me on the podium essentially. So yeah, strategy saved this one.
Yeah, of course, Tristan's Haas kind of was in the way when you came out of the pit lane there with his older hard tires. It probably was a matter of getting past as soon as possible, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That was my plan, to like get past him and then hope that he holds up the others behind, so there would be a DRS gap for the guys who are on fresher tires. And that's exactly what happened. So a bit of luck on the way as well. Things went my way, so yeah, can't complain.
Was this result within the line of expectations for you tonight?
Pretty close, yeah. I wasn't sure about P2, but like P4, P3, that's that region I was aiming for personally. So yeah, happy with the result.
I'm gonna ask, throughout this race you were constantly almost pushing the other your opponents. When it came to Alex, it almost felt like, especially on the final phases of this race, that his pace was just that little bit more every step of the way. Only a few occasions where you got close. How did Alex, like when you had Alex in front of you, does he drive differently to the others? Why couldn't you be as aggressive in terms of pushing the drivers than you were against Alex?
Are you on about Alex or Lewis? So the guy who won the race, or the Aston?
No, Lewis, sorry, yes. Yeah, Lewis, sorry.
Yeah. With Lewis, I think it's just his consistency. He wasn't making essentially any mistakes compared to the other drivers who I was behind during the race. I don't think I saw him make a single one. Not a single slide, not a single lockup or anything like that. So yeah, it's hard to keep up with older tires to a guy who doesn't make any mistakes. So it's just, a perfect drive from him. And yeah, maybe next week I'll try to aim for something similar and try to beat him.
Are you confident with Kota?
Pretty confident, yeah. Should be a good track for me.
That's great to hear.
Absolutely love that.
Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy second place.
Yeah, thanks guys.
All right, well, thankfully, Hyper, we've had somebody to ask our questions to, so that is great. Yeah, definitely an interesting race for Alexi, and since Kota is a strong point for him, perhaps he can try and have a go at the title.
I think, the Kota is one of those that's going to really throw a curveball amongst a lot of these drivers, because we've gone from two very straight line style of racing with 90-degree bends, heavy braking. Now we're going to go into more technical with Kota, where there is that Sector 1 S's that was designed to simulate Silverstones, Maggots, Beckett's, and Cops, Maggots, and Beckett's. But that, for me, is going to really show the technicality of these drivers. And this is also another reason why I love Kota, is it is a range, because you do have that straight line speed. You do have very much how well can the car grip under stress amongst, as I said, the first sector and even the third sector as well, where you do have that 19, 20, 21 triple apex corner. No, 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, 17,
triple
18, 19, yeah.
apex.
And of course, a difficult corner. The left-hander turns 16, 15. The one where there's almost no apex, you know, the one that goes downhill and immediately back up before the long right-hander. That one is really tricky as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of technicality, and I know I'm going to be all over Kota. It is my bread and butter. I love watching it. It's great in the real world. It's never failed me for entertainment here in sim racing as well. And I'm glad we got it back again. So you're going to see a very excited Hyper all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that one. Let's see next week what happens. Apology for showing the wrong calendar right there. For some reason, season 40 is still up in my OBS. I'll change that immediately. Yeah, apart from the technical issues, hope you guys all enjoyed this stream. Let's hope the game is a bit more stable next week for the big one for Mr. Hyper right here. Kota is pretty much around the corner. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Until then, goodbye.